Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life and Layouts, and today I am back with day number 13 of 30 Days of Sketches with Chrissy's Beautiful Life. Today's sketch is brought to us by Janet over at Galaxy Girl Creations, and I brought out my Doodlebug Pumpkin Spice Collection to document some photos of the kiddos on a cow tail barrel ride. I'm getting really low on this collection, and I do have to end up printing some of them from Lori Whitlock and her website, and I'll explain those in just a second. I originally printed out these photos in a 4x6 size, laid them out on the layouts, and quickly realized that that wasn't going to work. So I sized all of them down. So the 4x6s went down to 3x4s, the 3x4s that I had went down to 2x3s, and I was able to get a ton of photos on this layout. I ended up with 10 photos on the layout, and it is pictures of the kids on a cow trail barrel ride. These barrel rides are pretty popular at every pumpkin patch that we go to. This particular pumpkin patch that we were at, my friend Christina was there, and so her kids were in the barrels with Eli, and they just had such a blast. You can tell from Eli's facial expression that he was loving this ride. Once I got the photos arranged how I thought I was going to put them down, I decided to look through the paper. I am running so low on this collection, and I keep hoping that Doodlebug is going to come out with a fall collection, but every day that passes that they do not announce one, I get sadder and sadder, because I know that normally the fall collections come out well before October, and it just doesn't look like we're getting one this year. Which is very sad, because I love this collection. I've gotten a lot of use out of it. What I decided to do was purchase these wagons, which did have pumpkins in them, from Lori Whitlock's website. I will link her below. She does have all of the ephemera pieces from this collection on her website that you can print and cut out. What's amazing about it is that they are already colored for you. So I did not have to go in and add any of these colors. I probably could have changed the wagons to a red color to match the barrels that were in the photos, but I kind of like the contrast of that teal green with the red. As well as I plan to use this teal color paper at the top with the clouds and the leaves on them. So I feel like that also gives it a contrast of having the teal at the top and bottom. The barrels are connected underneath with a metal rod, so I thought it would be cool to have this 1/4-inch strip connecting these wagons. Then I found this border strip that had all of the fun creatures on it, so I decided to cut out the border strip, and I'm going to put 3 creatures in each one of the barrels to kind of represent the kids in the barrels in the photos. So once I cut the strip down, then I lined it up at the bottom of the photo and realized that I could add the 3. So I cut out the 3, and then I realized that I needed to ink up the edges of these print and cuts. My Silhouette does a really good job of cutting these out very closely, but I like to add the inking to the edges just to give it a little bit of extra dimension. I have been using these a lot more recently, and I've gotten some questions in regards to how to do the print and cut features. It is on my to-do list to create a tutorial. It's just not in my bandwidth right now. I have a lot going on, and my to-do list is continuously growing, but I will have one in the future about how to use these print and cut features, especially the Lori Whitlock one, since she does have a ton of Doodlebug. Once I got all the wagons inked up, I continued along with adding the creatures to the wagon. I trimmed them down so that there were 3 in each, and then I did have to do a little bit of fussy cutting down at the bottom because the wagon went in a little bit, and some of the creatures went almost to the very edge. I think it looks so cute with the creatures in the wagon, even though the green part is behind it, and maybe I probably should have fussy cut those out. And I was like, it is what it is. And I think that the green actually adds a little bit of extra color to it as well. So I add the 1/4-inch strip down, and then I add the wagons on top of the 1/4-inch strip. I did the 1/4-inch strip a little bit higher than the little piece that's on the wagon, and I think that that's okay, because if you look at the photos, that metal bar also looks very similar to where my placement is on the scene at the bottom. I was just 3 little critters short, so I did have to cut out the other border strip and I wanted to make sure that I had that continuous row of the fox, mouse, hedgehog, and then the raccoon, mouse, squirrel. So I did have to cut kind of the center of the strip. Then I got the tractor down and trimmed off the rest of the 1/4 inch strip. I am laying out my photos using my T-square ruler, following the sketch pretty closely. These photos that are on the far left are of the kids getting into the barrels, and my friend Christina is laughing hysterically in one of them because her nephew was there as well, and he was having a little trouble getting into the barrels. This was probably his last pumpkin patch that he was going to be able to ride the barrel rides. And then over on the right hand side, I was struggling quite a bit to get these photos down straight and lined up with the left hand side. When I cut out the 3x4 photos, I do struggle a lot with making sure that they are all the same size. When you cut them down, it does cut off like maybe 1/8 of an inch. So when you're trying to create a grid, sometimes you do have a little bit of issue with it. I did change up the sketch just a little bit so that I could have the 3x4 photos and the 2x3 photos next to each other, as well as kind of across from each other. Once I got the photos down, they were still a little bit off, so I just used my T-square ruler and X-Acto knife to trim up the photos to make sure that my grid was even. And then I got the final photo down of Eli in the barrel when he was riding, and he has just this huge expression on his face, and I just love it. And now I'm looking through the ephemera pieces, and it may look like I have a ton of ephemera pieces left, but I am really struggling with trying to use up the pieces that are left because they don't seem to go with my layout. And you can see on this particular one, there is a ton of food. There's some bread, macaroons, pies, hot chocolate, cupcakes, and I have no idea what to do with those. I need to look through some of my photos and try to maybe pair up the ephemera pieces with my photos, but off the top of my head, I have no idea what I would use those particular pieces on. So if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments below. And then I start looking through the title pieces, and I'm trying to find something that would work with this layout, but I really can't find anything at all. So I decide to pull out my alpha dies. I picked up both of these alpha dies from scrapbook.com. I will link them below for you. Nicole over at Collie Bean definitely influenced my purchase of these two alphabet dies. I saw her use these alphabet dies together where she had this whimsical alpha die and she paired it with the very simple typewriter die. And I just love the way that those two fonts looked together. And I like the fact that I now have two sets of fonts that work well together. You know, my favorite one is the one that is the scripty font with the block font that has the scripty edges. But this one is also becoming one of my favorites as well. So I want to give a shout out to Nicole for influencing me to purchase some items from scrapbook.com, which, you know, we always enjoy. So I'm also using her dicker technique. I will link the video here for you. She gives an amazing tutorial on it. It's basically 2 pieces of white cardstock and then your pattern paper on top of it. And I decided to pull out the 6x6 paper pad and cut out this orange plaid color for my title. And my title is going to be Cow Trail Barrel Ride because I am so amazing with coming up with titles for my layouts. I really wanted that T to be in the center of the 2 photos that are right above the title. So I started with the T from Trail and used my glue press to add down the title. I also pulled out my T-square ruler to make sure that the title was straight. As I'm getting the rest of the title down, I do want to encourage you guys to check out the playlist below. It does have everyone who is playing along with this 30 days of sketches, and you can see everyone else's interpretation of this sketch. I follow Janet over at Galaxy Girl Creations. I've been watching her for quite a while now, and I really enjoy her videos, so make sure you go and give her some love as well for this particular sketch. She did an amazing job on it. All right, so I've gotten the title down, and I'm trying to find something else to lay down on the layout. I'm looking through the 6x6 paper pad, since this is probably the most paper that I have. And I found a sheet of the square cards, and I really liked the sun on it. And I figured that I still had that because I don't remember using it on a layout, and I was able to find it. So the sun just says, "Hello, sunshine." So I decided to put the sun in the upper right-hand corner. to kind of mimic the sun in the sky, and I like the sun next to those clouds. It kind of gives it that scene look and brings the entire scene together with the clouds and sun in the sky and then the tractor down on the ground. I then was trying to find another piece to add to the title, and I tried out quite a few different pieces, but I do end up using this little blue mushroom. I have blue in all of the other pieces on the layout, and I felt like there was a ton of orange with the title, and I needed to bring in some blue over there. I also found this border strip on the 6x6 paper pad that had little ladybugs on it, and I knew that there were also lots of little ladybugs in the ephemera pieces, so I decided to add that strip underneath the title, which then allowed me to add the ladybug. I had the ladybug crawling up and to the left, and then I was like, maybe she should go to the right, maybe she should go downwards. It took a little bit to figure that out, but I finally did end up putting her crawling downwards. I looked through some of the other embellishment pieces and I couldn't find anything that I was really liking, so I went to my dies. I don't have a lot of basic dies, and I really need to start shopping for things that are like basic shapes. I do have a couple. I pulled out a tab die and cut that out in the green. I added it to the upper right hand corner and then realized that I wasn't filming. So you missed me cutting that part out. But then I also cut out this little tiny camera, and I cut it out in brown, and I wanted to overlap it on the top where the clouds were, but I didn't want the clouds to show through. So I just backed it with the white and then fussy cut around the back part of it so that you would then just see the white part, which has a little heart in the center. Since I had the heart cut out, I did decide to add that to the left-hand side of the layout next to the title. I then pulled out my tiny stars and hearts, and I have purchased these little tiny tubs. I love these things. I'm able to create some 2 stacked hearts and stars and add them to these little tiny tubs. And then when I need to have something for my layout, I can just cut out the top layer, which is what I did here. I cut out a layer in green, orange, and brown. And then what I'll end up doing is, because these are the petite prints, I will add these little tiny hearts that I don't use on this layout, since I do have to cut out 5 because that's what the die is. I'll add it to another set of tubs. So you can see on the right hand side, I have 3 little tubs that have just white hearts in them. Those are all 3 sizes. And then on the left hand side, those are the tiny hearts that I've cut out and added the Doodlebug petite prints on top of. And my collection is starting to grow, which I'm super excited about, because then it'll make it easier for me to add the hearts on my layouts without necessarily having to create them each time. So I do have a little container where I keep my scraps of Doodlebug petite prints that I plan to cut out additional hearts and stars. It's also on my very ever-growing to-do list. All right, guys, that is it for this video. Here is my final layout, as well as some close-ups. Make sure you take the time to go and check out everyone else who is participating. Make sure you take a look at everyone else who is participating today so you can see different ways this sketch was interpreted. If you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.